So today I want to talk about contracts and comparing private enterprise contracts with the social contract. And I think I actually talked about this a bit in my last video, but I've had experience working in my industry. I've said before, construction industry, dealing with, especially in many things, but from what I've seen in construction, there's very clear contracts, and there are legal teams, and they lay out, what does this mean? What does that mean? What do you mean by this thing? And I've had a fair bit of experience in, okay, well, when you say you need this particularly sized piping, does it need to be that, or can it be this other one? And we have a back and forth, and we agree on the terms, and then everyone who's agreed and signed off on the contract, is obligated and required to fulfill their obligations. So, comparing that to the social contract, I don't know about much of the rest of the world, and maybe it's the case that these have not been properly fulfilled by both parties for the entirety of human history, except for maybe certain instances where it was like just a very brief kind of utopia and everything worked out perfectly. But what bothers me today is the social contract, in that, as far as I've seen, while I would like to think that, at least in America, there was a point where there was an understanding of what the social contract is. I have a responsibility to abide by the law, be a good citizen, take care of people around me, be a good person, and I will relinquish certain rights that should be inherently a right to me. But I will relinquish just enough so that society can function, so that the government can do just those things that only they can do, because if anyone else does it, it'll cause conflict. Law enforcement, for instance. And I don't know where else I was going with that. And that's it. I will relinquish only that which is absolutely necessary of my rights for the giving of the other side of the benefits of living within this society. So what I believe is that social contract has just gradually withered and died. It's similar to like certain zombie movies. Rather than the zombies just eating brains and constantly chasing down humans, they will become a zombie, and then because there's still something lurking in there from when they were alive, if they flipped burgers, they'll just sit there flipping burgers, or trying to flip burgers, because they're too stupid to go find the burgers in the fridge, which has now stopped working because it's the zombie apocalypse. But I see that as the social contract, or I see the social contract as that zombie, in that it served a purpose. It was made for a purpose, and it was agreed to for a purpose. And then gradually it just kind of kept going, and the laws expanded, and the laws became more minute and detailed, and all the while the one side of this contract, the populace, still is required to abide by the terms of this contract, the other side keeps changing their terms. And one of the things in my industry that is very apparent is if any party wants to make a change to the contract, the other party isn't obligated to agree to that change. They may, and then if one party makes a change and the other agrees to it, then both parties are obligated. But until the other agrees, that's not a binding contract anymore. They're still bound to the original contract. So, as one side, the government has constantly just been shifting and changing, and we just need a few more of your rights. We just need a few more of your freedoms. And we're doing worse than ever at providing you the things that we agreed to give you in exchange for relinquishing some of your rights. We've made it harder and harder for you to even if you're trying to fulfill your obligation to this contract, but you're still required. And this brings me to something I asked the inestimable Robert Gouveia yesterday on his live stream. Great live streams. I love going there with any kind of legal questions. What is the argument for ignorance of the law is no excuse? And I can understand some of the arguments for it, actually. My issue is that at this point, say in this social contract, the party of the population is doing everything in their power to fulfill their obligations. I'm trying to abide by the law. And then the other party to the contract just keeps changing the terms of the contract. And so every time I can sit there and go, oh, that change, okay, I gotta abide by that law now. I gotta abide by, well, what does that law mean? Okay, go to subsection 12-734 of House Bill this and that, and okay, do we have someone who can just cover this stuff? Because we're trying to keep track of all these legal obligations we have, but I just can't keep track of it because they keep changing stuff. They're changing things so fast I can't keep up, and they're changing things into such, like, just throwing in extra terms in there and going, now you gotta like refer to this court hearing, and then that it refers to that court hearing, and I don't even know what this new law means. So, okay, I guess I have to hire somebody to do this for me. Not to deride the legal profession. It's very essential. Although, like with any other profession, there's some shitbags and some fantastic people. Robert, Viva, both Roberts, Viva, what was it? John, Good Logic, Rekieta Law. A lot of these YouTube lawyers, they seem honorable, honest, and I like them a lot. Some of them, not so much. What was it? Oh, no, I'm going to get the name wrong, and I'm going to deride the wrong YouTube channel. But there's one that Rekieta badmouths a fair bit. But so, getting back to the main point, with this social contract, now we're doing our best. I personally, I'm doing my best, trying to live my life as a person and focus on work and family and finances and all this stuff. And more, I have to worry about, did I just break a law? One of my things to Robert Gouveia yesterday was I know people who have, just because they didn't understand the tax code, the IRS came after them. And when they tried to convince the IRS that they tried to abide by the tax code, they just didn't know how. And they went to prison. So, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this social contract, when one side keeps changing the rules, and I will, just to be clear, if anyone, I always feel I need to give this disclaimer, I'm not calling for insurrection. I will continue to do my best to abide by the law. However, I'm pretty damn sure I'm probably breaking laws at least once a month, once a week, every day. I have no idea at this point. One of the things Robert said was, you can convict someone for doing anything for any crime you want. Which is why, when it comes to, say, political matters, I'm veering around a bit, but when it comes to political matters, you can say, tying back to the social contract, you can say, okay, well, you say there's no way of remedying this, there's no way to hold the government accountable, but you can vote for other people. Okay, so then, great, we'll vote somebody else to go to DC, and then, oh, they're doing the same thing. Okay. Okay, well, can they be held accountable in the legal system? Well, only if it's politically expedient for someone else. Because every time the government is held accountable, what it really is certain people in the government trying to get rid of other people in the government so that they can take their power, take their place, take their influence and prestige. So in a situation like this, I would say, and this is actually a follow-up that I intend to give him on his next live stream. I'm fine with a social contract that says, I forego my right to argue in a court that ignorance of the law is the reason that I accidentally broke it. As long as the other part of that contract is the government cannot create an undue burden on me, be it by time of trying to study the law, which is impossible. There's a reason rich people have 50 lawyers and each one of them specializes in a specific field. And it gets very specific. So the government cannot create undue burden on me either by forcing me to take more time to understand the laws, the changes that they're making to the social contract, or to require me to pay someone else, to pay out of my pocket just so I can understand the contract. Because one of the things in the industry I work in, construction, is if one party makes a change to the contract that impacts the cost of the other, then not only do they have to agree on the new rules, that party has to compensate the other. You can't just say, hey, we need this thing that's going to cost $5,000 more, but you just have to deal with it. You just have to do it. So, and this is actually as a random idea that popped into my head related to this, because I've been trying to come up with theories and ideas of how we can improve this system, how we can potentially revive and bring back a healthy social contract, if it ever existed. Maybe this is just a pipe dream that never was there. But how about this? For specifically with tax code, you might be able to tell that's kind of a stickler for me. Specifically for tax code, for every new law that you put in place with respect to tax code, you have to lower taxes by a certain amount. Have an inverse relationship between the amount of laws and the amount of taxes. Because look, if I'm going to have to pay somebody to teach me if I'm going to have to spend more money to have someone tell me how to abide by the US tax code, because I don't have time, I have to go make money. So if I'm going to have money taken from me for that purpose, then the government has to take less money from me. And so if you want more tax codes, then let's take it down to 1% income tax. Go for it. Or if you want more taxes, make it simpler. Although then at that point, I'm sure they'd just say, okay, no tax code, but 100% income tax. But that is my point. This social contract is completely, as usual, pardon my language, but it's just fucked. To the point where I would say, like I said, I'm not looking to overthrow the government, but it definitely needs revival, revamping, whatever we can do to fix this. Because as of right now, the social contract is a dictatorship. And this is actually something I just remembered I wanted to touch on. My definition of dictatorship has become not the standard definition of dictatorship. Personally, I don't care how many people are in charge. What I care about is that social contract. If an absolute monarch respects the social contract that they have with the people, and both parties agree on that contract, then I wouldn't care if we had a king. The only issue with that is that, one king does well. I've told people before, my vision of a perfect government is an absolute monarchy when it's a good king or queen or whatever non-binary term would be. But then that king dies and the next king gets into power and they're an absolute shitbag. So I don't care how many people are in charge. What I care about is the balance of that social contract. Is it a Congress who's stepping on all my rights and not giving me any of what is owed to me in this social contract? Or is it a king who's stepping on all my rights and not giving me what's owed in the contract? So that's it. That is the contract that I am mostly concerned about, and I will attempt to leave it there. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? That is it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. For the 5 or 6 people who watch this, I hope someone can get something out of it. And as always, I appreciate any critiques or feedback. Thank you very much. Y'all take care. Stay safe.